What is going on? I'm Landis. I'm here with Crespo.
What's up, guys?
And we are super happy to announce the start of the Wired Sound podcast. And we're kicking off today with our first episode. Going to be talking about DJ life, what it's like, what to aspire to as a DJ, and just all things DJing.
Yeah. I think our purpose with the Wired Sound podcast is to give you guys as much knowledge, as much genuine feedback as we can as DJs who are constantly on the road, touring, teaching. We have so many students coming through the academy. So the purpose of this podcast is to keep you with your thumb on the pulse of what's happening with everything DJing, producing, and music. So our goal here is to really just spread knowledge and bring on some really amazing guests for you guys. And today, Landis and I are just going to chop it up and let you guys know about some stuff that's been happening in the world of DJing for us.
All right, let's get into it.
Yeah, man. I had a question for you that I was thinking about while you've been touring lately. And my main question for you is, how have you been able to make such great music while being on the road? And tell me about your process of what your day-to-day is like to find time to do all of that.
Yeah, so I think I actually prefer to produce music in weird spaces. I know that's a super strange thing to say.
Yeah.
I know you always see the producers, right, in the studio locked down, or they're saying, in my studio working for the next week. I'm the complete opposite. Like, I find my most creative sparks are like 2 hours before a show.
Wow.
I'll be like, let me try and, whip up an idea for tonight to test out. Maybe because I'm in like that DJ mindset where I'm like, all right, I want to test this out tonight. Let's, do a remix of so-and-so's track and see how it plays out. Or, I would love to play some new original stuff. Let me just see what I can come up with. But
nice.
Airplanes, hotel rooms, coffee shops, that's where you'll find me making the heaters.
So that's where you feel most creative.
For
almost.
Sure. I get a little depressed in the studio by myself. Like even when I'm not touring, I'll instead of coming to the studio, a lot of times I'll go to a coffee shop and work there just so it feels a little less isolated.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you almost get more creativity around others, or maybe being on the move, or
I've never gone into the psychology of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely something there probably, but maybe just being out and about, it's just a lighter environment. The studio's a little bit, you're by yourself.
It's funny because I'm reading this book, this Rick Rubin book about finding creativity, and I'm the opposite. It's very hard for me on the road to make music because I'm always like, when's my next flight? What's the layover? What am I going to eat? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's like I might be hungover where I'm like, damn, I don't feel like making music. So would you say probably the best tip, or what's a really good tip to force yourself into getting there?
Yeah, so I think, as you know, I've become a father recently, so it's become a little bit harder to find the time.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to just get strict with myself with like, okay, I need at least 3-4 hours of production this week. So just kind of making that mental note and being like, all right, this is my production time. I'm going to go out to a coffee shop. I'm going to work on some music. Or, okay, I know I'm playing in DC tonight. I know that I'm on the plane. I'm going to try and, come up with a new idea for a song. So I'll set that time mentally in the beginning of the week and then try and stick to that as best as I can of some production time.
Because it's crazy. You're a dad. You teach at the school. You're an owner of Wired Sound Academy. And you're touring, and on top of that, releasing all these amazing records. I mean, you just had one with Bingo Players.
Yeah.
And for me, that's a goal of mine, to be on that level of like able to be as efficient as you on the roads, because it's so hard for me.
Yeah, I mean, you're at a different level of touring than I'm at, to be honest. Like, I think where you're at, I don't think I would operate the same way exhaustion-wise, because you're doing 3 different cities a weekend. I'm usually 1, sometimes 2.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a little bit more manageable for me to be like, okay, I got a little bit chill time in the hotel instead of sleeping, which you need to do because you're sleep deprived.
Exactly.
I spend the time working on the music.
Gotcha.
But I think when I get to your level of that touring level, I will probably need to sleep and need to like set studio time with, in a different way. And is that what you're doing?
It is. I've lately been focusing more on mentally and physically feeling better so much, because last year I was in a place where I was drinking a lot on the road nonstop, and the creativity and the time for it, I could never find it.
Yeah.
And I think it's because I was A, hungover, B, like my brain was more focused on being the touring DJ and all that. But what I realized after being on the hamster wheel for so long is if you don't put your time into producing and other ventures like the school, like we do, you kind of get stuck in this cycle for a long time.
Yeah.
And so I think where I'm at is trying to break out of that. So when I see you, I'm like inspired by it. I'm like, he takes the time to dedicate to producing creative, original music. And I think as DJs, if we don't start doing that in this day and age, you get lost in
the mix. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a need for the traditional DJ, right? Because clubs are just hiring you to fill the room, or not even necessarily fill the room, but just play the right vibe for the room, right? So I always talk about this with students. That's like the one side of DJing, right?
Yep.
The other side, the ones that everyone's kind of being like, I want to be there. That's the artist side, right? And that's your John Summits or Clooney or people like that, right. And they're the ones releasing music that people attach to that music, and then they go out to have an experience to that music, right? So that's where you're trying to leap into that side, right?
Yeah, and just more for myself, it's like I've always wanted to create music, but I got lost in the grind of being a DJ.
Yeah, which is amazing too. I mean, to make a career as a DJ is one of the best careers I think out there, and we're super lucky to be doing it. But it is a bit of a different kind of fulfillment when you're playing out your music to a crowd and they're reacting to it, or even maybe singing along some of the words. Like it's just a different feeling.
Exactly. And as you've been pushing me to make more music and release it, I used to hold on to my music and be like, it's not ready, it's not. But as I started to put out more music, it was almost like an instant feedback from people of even there's people who didn't like it, but some people loved it. And just those 5-6 messages of this song's sick kind of rewires your brain to push you to be like, oh, I can put out my music.
Yeah, you have people that, wake up, go to the gym and put on a Crespo song. That's an awesome feeling to know that exists out there, and you're making someone's day better in that way. It's really easy to get disconnected as a musician from the fans, but you got to remember that on the other side of those hundreds of thousands of listeners, those are people actually listening to your music. So even if it's 1,000 people streaming your song, that's 1,000 people streaming your song. That's a really cool thing that I think we detach from sometimes. We just see numbers, and you got to remember these are real people that you're changing their outlook maybe on the day. Maybe you made someone's day better because they liked your song, it made them happy, and that's, I think, a super cool thing that not a lot of people realize, that you're having that effect.
Definitely. I mean, you have a song with what's the most streams? 10 million?
I think 14 million on the Retrovision flip of Nobody Like You. A lot of people don't know this. That one was never supposed to come out.
Yeah.
And we kind of had to get a little aggressive with the label and be like, hey, no, this is good. You guys should put it out. He made it just to play out in his own sets.
Yeah.
And then we convinced them to put it out. And now I think it's one of his top records for Retrovision as well.
For sure.
And then was one of my top records. So that's another thing with the industry people. Nobody knows what's going to be a big song.
Right.
I mean, you got to put it out there. Even if no labels sign it, put the song out and then see what the reaction is. There's no downside. Especially nowadays, people have such a short attention span with music.
Yeah.
So if you put out a song and whatever, it tanks, it gets, not as many streams or whatever, just release another one in 2 weeks and just kind of keep going, keep kind of throwing stuff out there. I think it's a lot more about just getting your face and your name and your music in front of people nowadays.
Right.
So the more they see you, the more likely you're going to become someone that they want to follow and
be around.
Yeah, be an artist.
You collabed with some really big artists too. I'd love to know, especially as a new producer, how do I get into those spaces, or how do you even get their attention?
Yeah, so I think, the process of collabing with someone is always interesting because it could be really frustrating, and to be honest, I steered away from it for a long time. I'm talking the past 3 years. If you look at my catalog, it's pretty much all me.
Yeah.
Because I had bad experiences where I got really close to the finish line with a record, and then a manager shot it down, or a label passed on it, and then other artists lost interest, and that's super gut wrenching. I've had some A-list people be like, "Yo, we're gonna collab together," and then it fall through.
Right.
And then I'm like, oh, fuck this. I'm just going to release music on my own. So I forgot where I was going with that.
No, I mean, it makes
but
sense.
It was a bit of a bent.
Collabing with other artists is tough.
But yeah, collabing with other artists can be tough, so it's not always the way to go. But if you find people that, or artists that maybe are at a closer level to you, or they just really relate to your music, like the Bingo Players collab, for example. I mean, that was probably after I sent him maybe 2 or 3 records before that one connected with him.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you know, I can name drop. I've been sending tracks to the Chainsmokers for 15 years, and it's crazy. They're super responsive. I don't know what, I think it's Alex.
Yeah.
Like, he fucking emails me back within an hour. I'm like, is this actually him or is this some like AI version of it? But he's super responsive, which is crazy. But I knew them before, like the selfie days, you know, stuff like that. So maybe that's why. But anyways, I've probably sent them close to 30 tracks.
Wow.
Still haven't gotten a collab yet, but but you know, I'm still trying, and I think you know, that's part of the game too. Is just being persistent and not giving a fuck, like, you know.
True. Just putting it
out there, and if it connects, it connects.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot where we're going with that.
No, that's great. I'd basically like to see you go to these collabs, and I mean, Bingo Players, Retrovision, like some really big names, and then you have your label under Don Diablo on Hexagon. It's like you've really cemented yourself in the EDM world and the dance music world for a long time now.
Yeah.
You know, and like I think the students that come to Wired, they see that, and they also understand that they have like the insight from you, like at their fingertips. It's like, hey, Landis is right here in front of me.
Yeah, I'm an open book with people.
Yeah. Which is really cool, because I think the music industry, especially dance music, there's so many tricks of the trade or so many little circles, and you've been very open even with giving me knowledge about like, hey, here's an ad platform to help your music get out, or yo, you should try cold DMing, different things to where like I had no idea as a young new producer like what to even do with stuff.
Yeah.
You know, now that I've found some traction with labels, it's like once you have that traction with a couple records, these other labels start to trust you. They see your monthly listeners on Spotify. And all of a sudden, it's like, hey, we'll actually listen to your email, or we'll actually open your emails.
Yeah,
now.
and consider it, which is a big step.
Huge step, because like you said, you were telling me a couple of weeks ago, there's so much music, it's like hard to stand out.
Yeah.
An A&R probably gets, I don't know, how many emails do you get?
I mean, yeah, like I just run a small independent label. I'm getting probably 10 to 15 demos a day. And then I also get a demo folder from Hexagon of all like 100, 200 that they get to go through. So it's a lot. But all right, so let's talk a little bit about your journey, and you know, I think a lot of aspiring DJs probably want to know, how did you get into these markets like Vegas? That's probably the top DJ market, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, it is the pinnacle of DJing, I think. I was actually just there this past weekend, and there was a moment that I had on the balcony where I was like, holy fuck, I've been doing this for 4 years with the residency with Tau Group, and it's still a pinch me moment. You know, you get to Vegas and you see a billboard of your face or something, and you're like, God damn, how did I get here? And I really thought back to it a couple months ago. And for me as a DJ, I always wanted to not just be a local, right? So I had to figure out how to get out of, I call them bubbles, how to get out of my bubble. And what I did was really start booking flights. And I would not even go to DJ. I might not even had the money at the time, but I knew that if I put myself into someone else's bubble, I was instantly face to face with them. They physically knew who I was, or even just seen me. It was so much more impactful than being on Instagram. Like, oh, you know, a club booker could follow 1,000 DJs and see what they do, but it's a whole different energy when you are face to face with someone.
Talking to that person.
Building rapport, even just building friendship. It was never about like, hey, will you book me? It was more like, hey, I'm Danny, like I'm really hungry for this and I want to show you what I can do. And so my first time in Vegas, I offered to open for free at a local venue. And just to really get my foot in the door, feel the energy, understand what other DJs were playing. And as time went on, I started to meet the people in that bubble.
Yeah, the right people.
Yeah. And it would even be just me going in the club and be like, who's that? And they'd say it. And I'd be like, well, I'd love to meet that person. And I tried to manifest that. And
yeah, like, oh, I'll intro you. Yeah.
Exactly.
People are a lot nicer than you think, right? When you get to know them, like everyone's a person, even if they're you know, Grutman or someone like that, they're a person at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, and yeah, they're not gonna be a dick to you for no reason.
Right. And I guess this is probably a little bit harder in this day and age because there's so many DJs, but at the time, I offered to play a few opening sets almost free, basically, if you took out flight and everything, to just show that I was dedicated to playing and also showing them the skill I had.
Yeah.
On top of that, I made sure to bring people out, and this was my first gig at Marquee at the Cosmo. I brought out a ton of people. I made sure I played a really good set, and from there, people started to talk.
Okay.
Bartenders, the security guys loved it. I was nice to the driver, and the driver reported back to Tau Group HQ, like, great guy, love driving him. Those little things make such a difference. And I think as DJs, we forget to be humans. We want to be this rock star, but like, if you want to get to a certain place and you're not making hit records, there's other ways to do it. And I think it really starts with making sure you take your small bubble and take the other bubbles
it
and make it
find the right people, be friends with them, and just be a human and just be a person with people.
Exactly.
You know,
So
I think
Vegas,
it's a huge that's a huge thing that I think that's a talent that you have, is just being friendly, and everyone feels like they can just talk to you and relatable, and it's a skill, honestly, to be like that as a DJ.
And some DJs don't have it, and that's okay too. There's so many ways of finding success in your career. For me, to get into Vegas, I tried to really use skill, playing a good set, but also making sure I built a good rapport with people and let them understand that, like, if you book me, you're not going to get any drama. You're going to get consistency, a hard worker, and someone who will always be better.
Yeah, that's a huge thing. I was talking with, I think it was the guys from, I'm not going to name drop.
Yeah.
I was talking with a booker, and they pretty much said, oh, we stopped booking this guy because he was just DJing he was drinking like nonstop while he was DJing, and became sloppy. And we used to love him, but he just got too sloppy. Or we stopped booking this guy because he was just kind of a dick to the staff. And you don't realize how like other things come into play when you're DJing. You could play somewhere for 6 months and they love you, and then you have one bad gig where you're drunk and you're a dick to the staff, and they will never book you again. And then you'll also sour that for the other parts in the market where they might get word of that.
Exactly.
So it's just really important to stay on point. Like, think of it as it's a real job. Like, when you're DJing, it's not a party for you. At the end of the day, you are the talent, but you're also the person that is providing a good experience for the people paying money to come to that venue.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I've started booking venues as I've advanced in my career and booking DJs. And I'll tell you some of the main things that I don't have DJs return from is, one, you make it hard for me, or you complain, or you're a dick. If you're trying to get into a venue that I'm booking, I need you to be as easy and efficient and good as possible, right? Secondly is being on time, being punctual, not always getting fucked up. I want you to have fun, have a few drinks. If you're stumbling or slurring your words on the mic, I can't do that, right? And then the last part for me is obviously playing a great set, but on top of that, if you want to come back, if you want to be rebooked, you got to be kind. Like, I have some guys who hit me up, yo, when's my next date? I'm like, what?
Yeah.
You didn't say hello to me. Hey, how are you? Hope all's well.
Yeah.
Those little things have helped me advance my career so much, because you treat people like a human and you will get treated back like that.
You got to remind yourself, like, these are people that are booking you. These are, people that are coming to the venues. It's all a people's game at the end of the day.
Right. And my biggest advice to any DJ right now is, like, it's not about what someone can give you. It's like, everybody wants to take, but it's like, what can I also provide? Even if it's just if you're quick to send me an invoice, if you're quick to say, yes, I can book this date, that for me is like perfect.
Yeah, or I always do like a follow-up text, especially if it's a new venue. Hey, thanks for booking me. I had a blast. Hope you guys, were happy with it.
Huge.
Would love to be back soon.
Thank you, or hey, hope all is well, goes such a long way in a world where we're just gimme.
Getting in the door is like half the battle, right? The other half is staying in the door.
Exactly.
Staying at these venues.
And as you've grown as a DJ, you've learned it. I've watched you grow into the space of understanding how to work.
To be honest, like, I used to be an introvert, complete introvert, like, hated going out. And it's something that I had to learn to enjoy and learn. Like, I I always liked DJing. I started as a DJ before becoming a producer.
Yep.
But I definitely have a preference to producing and just being behind a computer.
Yeah.
But I learned to love the DJ side of things and becoming more of a people person, and it's gotten me so much further as on the DJ side of things than I thought it would have, just by learning to become more extroverted.
Yeah, you're even using the mic. I remember when we first
I know.
started working
I had
together.
the biggest fear
You're
of
like,
the mic.
fuck the mic.
I still practice. I still do. So.
Yeah, and dude, it adds so much more to your set because you let your crowd know you're there.
Yeah, it's a human behind here.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, you can definitely overdo the mic. Don't get me wrong with that.
Yes, for sure.
But it definitely creates you'll see the crowd visibly just have a major reaction when you just say, "Yo, how the fuck we feeling out there?" Anything.
Exactly.
It's just better.
Yeah. Any big trends you see happening, trending up or trending down in the world of music or DJing?
Yeah, so it's going to be really weird if TikTok gets banned. I'm not sure on the TikTok ban. I'm not sure how you guys feel about this, but it was where you can't argue that it was where music has been discovered for the past 4 or 5 years. And I'd say 80% of the big DJs that came up in the past 4 or 5 years, TikTok DJs. That's where they were discovered. So I don't know if it's going to be Reels as the trend. I don't think so.
Yeah.
It could be a new platform. I know Lemonade was in another TikTok platform I was checking out.
Yeah, I saw that.
But it's going to be weird. I mean, it might fall and revert back to where we were before, which was major labels and labels kind of putting on the artists. It might be a good thing for some aspects, because with TikTok, I got caught in this. A lot of people did.
Yep.
You're trying to make a song for 15 seconds for that 15-second clip, as opposed to focusing on the overall project and the song. So I do, in some regard, hope that it gets a little bit back to the artist side of things, where it's people sit down, they listen to the full 3 minutes of a song, or 4 minutes, whatever it is, and kind of see the bigger vision. So that could be the trend. I guess we'll see.
Interesting. Yeah. In the club space, what I'm seeing trending down, and this is, I don't know if it's a huge concern, but more meaningful parties, less, let's just go out and get fucked up, bottle service. And I try not to stress about anything going up or down, trends come back and forth, but I'm seeing lots of parties where there's intention involved, or something cool, like a 360 set or an all R&B party, all these things where people, or maybe even themed parties.
Yeah, people want an experience.
Exactly, where I think for so long we got lost in the let's just get fucked up, which is okay. But
spend a bunch of money, flex it.
We had it at the time. Things were amazing, and COVID kind of changed stuff. So I'm seeing the trend of belligerent, just go out and get drunk, trend down.
Well, socials kind of made that dangerous, right? You could get fucking canceled the next day if you go out too drunk. And I mean, back 10, 15 years ago, the stuff people were doing would not fly nowadays. You get a camera out and you're done. So maybe people are being a bit more careful with their behavior in public now too.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm definitely seeing a trend in maybe just overall drinking going down. I think more experiences, festivals, themed parties people are much more inclined to do. But I still will say the clubs are still alive and popping either way.
Yeah. Back to what I was saying, do you think the phoneless parties will ever take off? Like the ones where no phones allowed?
Oh, I would love to try that.
Yeah.
And
it's a thing. I think, was it Ibiza? Somewhere was testing it out. It seems hard to execute. It seems like it would be cool, right? Because, you got to kind of just be in the moment.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it'll be a trend or not. I would love it.
Yeah. I went to the Anima show at the Sphere, and I thought it was really cool. I thought the energy was awesome, visuals were cool, but
everyone like this.
It was just a phone out the whole time. And I get it. Part of me wanted to have my phone out too, but I was also like, this is the fucking Sphere.
You're in it right now. Like, why watch it through a little screen when you're in the moment? And that's what the EDM world was all about. It was about being in the moment and kind of experiencing it.
Yeah. I watched that Avicii documentary the other day, and
I didn't finish it yet. Yeah,
the flashbacks of what I had for 2010 EDM was just
know.
I miss this so much.
I'm hoping. I mean, for the music side. So if you hear, you'll hear my sound. I always kind of change where I'm heading, but musically right now I'm definitely going a little bit back more to the progressive house.
Yep.
Feel good kind of stuff. I think so. That's the stuff I love. you know, it hasn't been relevant. Obviously, techno, tech house, all the darker stuff has been relevant right now.
Yeah.
But I do think there's something to be said about like when there's a trend, go the complete opposite direction, and eventually that'll be the new trend.
Yeah.
And that's how like I think a lot of artists succeed is they're making something that no one else is making right now, and people are sick of what everyone is making, which would be the tech now stuff.
Yep.
They're like, okay, I want something with the complete opposite of that. Oh, melodic Avicii progressive house.
Yeah.
Let's go listen to some of that. So that's my philosophy.
I like that.
I
think it's
I love
great.
making that stuff anyways, so that's where I'm heading sound-wise.
Yeah, I think like especially even for me, I kind of got lost in like, okay, let me start making stuff because like Afro House, and I was like, I hear an Afro House record, a new one every day.
Yeah, you hear those drums and that stuff and you immediately skip it because you're like, I've heard this 20, 50, 100 times today.
I know it's gonna build me up, and then the drop's just gonna be like climactic, and then I'm like, all right, what's next? You know?
Yeah, so I mean that's something to be said too, as far as like trends and where music is heading.
Nice.
I don't really look at trends. I look at what no one else is trying to do right now and see
Like
if
that.
there's a space to create in that environment. You know.
I think that's a great formula. Anything to wrap up? I don't want to keep us too long here.
Yeah, I think so. We're gonna be doing this, I think, either weekly or bi-weekly. We'll see. We're gonna have a lot of great guests. But if you guys have any suggestions for what you want to learn about, what you want us to talk about, you know, drop it in the comments.
Yeah, hit us with
message us,
questions.
DM us.
Yeah.
And we run Wired Sound Academy in Fort Lauderdale. We got some cool expansion stuff happening. We'll talk about that soon. But if you want to learn to DJ, produce music,
We are here.
we would love to have you here.
Yep.
Month-long programs, and some of our graduates are absolutely crushing it.
Yeah, shout out to all the Wired Sound
Ambrose,
graduates.
yeah,
Yeah, they're all
Steph.
doing amazing, and I think one thing that I think what I've learned through Wired is like we're providing the mentorship to help people speed up to get to where they want. Where when we were younger,
You give
we
them the
didn't
skill set. Yeah.
we didn't have that. You know, like mentorship in this day and age is so important because I think for me, if I had the skill set, I would have moved 10 times quicker to where we want.
You got to know, where to go, what to do. You can't just go on YouTube and be like, how to become a DJ. It's not gonna fly. There's too much information out there, and you need a concise curriculum to kind of guide you through that.
Definitely. So
Awesome.
come rock with us. Thank you guys for tuning in. This is Wired Sound Podcast.
See you next
Episode
time.
1.
Boom.
Peace. Cool.